In this episode, Allan talks a lot about boat projects, we explore a cave, and Santa delivers some presents. So a girl from Argentina
and a guy from the States
met climbing in the Andes.
Such just was their fate.
Now a Colorado family
soon an idea grew
to start a new adventure
where the kids are known as crew.
Here are their lessons.
Learn along the way
on board their trusty sailboat.
Her name is Easy Day.
After arriving to Ventura, our first big task was to stow all the cargo we brought from Colorado. That took a couple of days. Then, we could begin to tackle the big boat projects.
All right, so as far as the big boat projects go, I want to give a rundown of kind of everything we did while we were in Ventura and San Diego. So the first thing that, was kind of the big job was this arch behind me from Atlantic Towers out of New Jersey. So I purchased it. It was about $4,000 with about $800 of shipping. So it came to just under $5,000. But basically, it has this sliding bracket right here, and you can adjust it for the width of the boat, and you can install it yourself by through bolting it down to the deck of the boat. And so that was the first big job we tackled once we got to Ventura. So I'll show you some more of the components of putting this arch together. All right, so putting the arch together, I had to, adjust the propane tank, which used to be mounted on life rails that ran through here. I had to remove the life rails out of there to accommodate the arch here. And then so move the propane. The cool feature of the arch is I attached these dinghy brackets here. So now we have the dinghy stowed nice and safely out of the way on the back of the boat so that we no longer have to bring it up on the foredeck. And then the next piece was put some solar on. So it's not much, it's just 400 watts of solar, but it's getting us started with some solar. I also added a new AIS VHF antenna, adjusted the radar, put it right here in the middle, mounted Starlink and that antenna to the sides of the arch with these brackets here, which are made by the Director Boatyard, specifically a fabricator. His name's Elliot, and he's really good at what he does. And I added the throwable here on the side, and we have just enough space to be able to lash the surfboards to the bottom of it, which is pretty cool too. I do want to just show you one quick thing when it comes to how the arch was installed. This is the bracket on the bottom of the foot for the arch. And so what I actually used was a product called JB Water Weld, and it's an epoxy putty. And so I use that to basically form a super flat base for the foot of the arch, so that all of the compression was evenly distributed on the fiberglass. And that actually worked out really well. I did it on the forward foot as well. So all four of them. So all of the pressure is evenly distributed. Yeah, so when it comes to like putting an arch on your boat, there's just really no cheaper option than putting one of these kind of DIY arches. It was pretty easy to do. If you can see behind me, there's just these through bolts right here. That's where you set the width of the arch so that it can fit on your boat. Okay, so back to what I was talking about here with the removal of the lifelines that previously had gone through here and created the bracket to hold the stainless steel lifelines. Since I had to remove that, I had to just kind of quickly fashion a way to figure out how to reintroduce lifelines here. So what I did is we just spliced this dyneema in with a Brummel splice, and then I got some stainless steel turnbuckles, and then this is a dyneema strap also from Blue Water, and they're working really well. And right here, I just kind of fabricated an eye, another Brummel splice, and put that in there. And so they're, I mean, some nice tight dyneema lines. So that was the solution for that. Okay, I also put this compass in here. We had originally purchased this from Fisheries up in Seattle, and the issue was the hole in the pedestal here was too small to be able to accommodate this. So what I had to do is, I ended up using some cutting board, make a larger hole, and then that provided the guide to be able to drill through this aluminum to be able to seat it. So we put this in. I still need to clean up some of this. This is just the waterproofing of the butyl tape that I placed underneath to make all this watertight. Okay, so another big win in Ventura was the rebuilding of my Navtec gear. So what was happening previously is this was leaking out of the back of this, out of either this selector switch or the pump here, and it was kind of draining down the front of this fiberglass. So that's never good. It was also not holding pressure, which that's a problem. So what I did is I took out this whole piece and brought this pump and selector switch along with my boom vang right here. I brought that up to a company called Seatek Yachting out of Long Beach, California. A gentleman by the name of Allan was able to rebuild both of these for about $500 a pop. So Seatek Yachting is actually the distributor for Navtec gear in the Los Angeles area. So when I talked to him on the phone, he knew exactly what he was talking about. I was really impressed. I brought it over to him. It was about a week turnaround, and he'll rebuild all your Navtec gear for about $500 per item. So if you have a pump, that's $500. If you have like a backstay like I have here, that would be another $500. But I'll put a link to Seatek Yachting, his business, in the description below, in case you're interested in having if you're on the West Coast and you want to have your stuff rebuilt. He's top notch and he knows exactly what he's doing. I also received a rebuild kit for this backstay because it wasn't leaking at the time, and I just didn't really feel like it needed to be rebuilt. But I do have the kit to be able to do that in the future if I want to. All right, so if you remember in the last episode, these fuel gauges were giving me a bit of a time. And look at that, nice, fresh, new fuel gauges. So that's pretty cool. So let's see if they work. This is what they do when you turn them on. Boom, bada, boom, boom. And okay. And so far, let me turn this off. So far since our last fill up, we've come down just about 1/8 of a tank on the starboard tank, so that's pretty good. And these have been working really well. I'll also show you on the fuel sender that I swapped out on both of the tanks. All right, so here I am on the starboard tank. This is the fuel sender that I swapped out. I also swapped out the same sender on the port side tank. So it was just a matter of kind of splicing in the wires and getting some heat shrink on there. Now I did this while I had this port open because I timed it to be able to wipe out the tanks and get some nice, really clean diesel tanks. So knocking out 2 birds with 1 stone. The other addition that we had here was Director Boatyard welded this inspection port. So now I can use a sounding rod to inspect manually the level of fuel in the starboard tank. The port tank already had one, but this one was added to the starboard tank just in case this ever doesn't work. Now I have a backup and that makes me feel nice and safe. Okay, so out of all the things that we upgraded while we were in Ventura, I'm not really sure what I'm most excited about, but it's probably a tie between the Arch and the Rocna Vulcan anchor that we added on. So previously we had like a 45-pound CQR, and when we were at the Coho anchorage, it was blowing like 30 knots. I could not get that thing to set. It took us like 3 tries. It was a little bit uncomfortable. So since we have had this, oh my goodness, this thing sets like in its own length, and it sets every time. And sleeping at anchorage is like way more comfortable, way less stress than, you know, having kind of one of those older school anchors that you're just not, I don't know, you just don't really trust them as much. This thing's amazing. So love this. This is the 33 kilogram, 73 pounds, and it's a monster. Okay, next up, coming down the coast from Seattle, it was all downwind sailing. And that was a bit brutal because we did not have a spinnaker pole, or like any kind of pole, like a whisker pole or a spinnaker pole that I could use to push out the Genoa and the jib for going wing on wing. But we have since fixed that. All right, so here's the deal. I went to Mike's Consignment in Ventura, which is a consignment shop, awesome spot. It has all kinds of winches and fittings that are used, and they're really, really well priced. What I was able to find was this fitting right here for a 3.5-inch aluminum spinnaker pole. I then went over to Ventura Steel, purchased 2 20-foot lengths of Schedule 40 3.5-inch aluminum, which is this. Went over to a machine shop, had them hone out the interior of the interior diameter of the tubing so that it could accommodate this fitting. And along with the purchase over at Mike's, I purchased the jaws that go on the other end of the spinnaker pole as well. So I was able to create the other length of pole, aluminum tubing is right here. And so I'm still looking for one more of these fittings here to be able to complete the second one. So that'll just be probably a hunt for it when we're in different ports down in Mexico. Or I might just purchase one from Forspar and have it shipped across the border. So the way this works is that fitting right there plugs into these toggles that are now mounted on the mast car. And so I have 2 of them. So theoretically I could pull out 2 head soles on either side for trade wind sailing once I get this one complete. Okay, so next up, right here on my fuel and water deck fill fittings, swapped out some O-rings. These guys right here. Because what they'll do is they'll start to dry out and crack. And when you're heeled over, if you get a little water over the side of your boat, they can fill up your fuel tank with water or put salt water in your water tanks. So that's never good. So I did replace those, and now I don't have to worry about getting water in my fuel. Can you guys show me where the water maker is? Okay, cool. So the water maker is inside of this hatch right here. We, through different feeds online, we were able to source and build our own water maker. So here we have 1 high pressure pump and a 2nd high pressure pump so that we have a little bit of redundancy. And then here is our pressure vessel and our gauge. Over here is our super sweet filters. There's one, 20 microns, and then in the back there's another 5 microns. Here's our switch for our primer pump and then our high pressure pumps. And then we have this dial right here to dial.
To turn those pumps off.
Oh yeah. That's because the other breaker's off, so it's okay. And then we have our regulator valve right here so that we can dial in our pressure. Usually we put it at about 850 PSI. And that gives us about less than 200 parts per million of salt, which is, we're pretty happy with that. So that's all tucked away in there, out of the way, and directly fills our water tanks.
All this work kept us in Ventura a little longer than we would have liked, but it was all essential before heading into Mexico, where it would be harder to get supplies.
It really didn't take long for the boys to adjust to boat life. Between beach trips, superhero battles, dinghy expeditions, and paddleboarding, they were able to keep pretty busy.
What is it?
The Parade of Lights.
The Parade of Lights, and what do we have here?
Boats.
It's like decorated boats, right, Gunnar?
One of the highlights was the Parade of Lights through Ventura Harbor. Since we were staying in the slips owned by the Director Boatyard, they were very kind to invite us to their Christmas party that took in the occasion. Once the projects were done, we could cast off, bound for Cruz Island.
This first trip was the boys' first time seeing dolphins cluster at the bow of the boat.
Here we go, guys. Here they come. Here they are. Here they are. Say hi.
Santa Cruz Island also has a feature called the Painted Cave, a 600-foot deep marine cave you can actually take your dinghy into. The day we went, the swell was a bit too big to get all the way to the back. We felt like we were in the movie The Goonies.
Oh, it's crashing back there now. Alright, we're making our way out of the cave. Here we go.
Teddy's super scared.
Teddy is scared.
After 2 days in Santa Cruz Island, we opted to head south to Catalina Harbor to hunker down for a low-pressure system with some nasty weather.
Before the blow arrived, we had enough time to explore Catalina Harbor. Since it was December, the mooring field was almost empty. This time of the year, the cost of a mooring ball is very affordable, and if you pay for 2 days, they'll let you stay for a full week.
The highlight of the stay was a hike to a high point overlooking the harbor.
Homeschooling begins. Daniela has begun homeschooling the boys, with each day starting with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag, to the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Once the nasty weather blew through, we departed for San Diego. I had sailed in and out of this port dozens of times while stationed on a Navy frigate there, but it was the first time I would do it as captain.
Our first anchorage was Glorieta Bay, tucked between Coronado Island and the Silver Strand. The location offered an amazing view of the lights on Hotel Del, and we could hear Christmas music each night as we went to sleep. Despite Gunnar's concern Santa would not be able to find us on the boat, the presents were waiting for the boys in the pilot house on Christmas morning.
One of the perks of our time in San Diego was being able to visit friends in the area. We spent both Christmas dinner and New Year's with friends from our previous duty stations.
Teddy even had a proper birthday party with a trip to the beach.
2 weeks in San Diego flew by in a flash, and we were headed south once again.
Thanks for watching. Stay tuned for an update on our travels to Mexico. Easy day, shipmates. Easy day.